But of course, it was bound to erupt. The well known meeting in Anchorage, Alaska, caused deep pain to far too many people on this earth. And that same meeting, of course, deprived them of their last faith in justice on this earth and in the punishment of evil. Time passed. We saw that all of Europe, all the presidents and prime ministers, displayed incredible ingenuity and invented countless new ways to bury their heads in the sand just to avoid talking about this topic and voicing the most terrifying truth. No one dared to question the judgment of the one who gave the go ahead and consent for that meeting. No one questioned Trump's adequacy, let alone something even more frightening, which the internet had been whispering about in corners for a long time. And then the president of Portugal, Mr. Rebelo de Sousa, appeared and openly, publicly declared that the president of the United States is objectively acting as a Soviet or Russian agent. Logically, he functions as an agent, and it's clear that everyone has always feared this topic. They fear it like fire, and no one ever brought up this subject unnecessarily at any level. But it must be said that the topic hasn't lost its relevance and periodically flares up, burning away any hope that the abominable evil called Putin will be tamed and punished. Robelu de Souza's remark is understandable. Indeed, some of Trump's behavior has no reasonable or rational explanation. And the search for that very Occam's answer, from Occam's razor to all these mysteries, inevitably leads to the same thoughts, the very same thoughts that Souza voiced. It is very difficult to find any justification for the astonishing leniency shown by the US president toward the antics of a criminal country, toward its brazenness, its treachery, and ultimately its cannibalism. The fact that today's Russia is pure evil, concentrated vileness is so obvious that there can no longer be two opinions about it. Its toxicity, its poisonousness for the entire world is beyond doubt. And its thirst for war, its thirst for violence is indisputable. And regardless of motivation, everything the Russian Federation has done since the 22nd, since February 24th, 2022, is a grave, ongoing crime, and there is no doubt about that. The lawlessness taking place inside Russia itself, the repression of the innocent, the systematic brutalization of the masses only serves to confirm the darkest suspicions about Russia's plans and intentions. We can see on social media that everything has already happened there and that the majority of the population takes pleasure in the Russian bombings of residential neighborhoods in Kiev and in the killing of children. And all of this forms a picture of absolute horror. At the same time, Washington is demonstrating a kind of duality. One moment it growls at Moscow, the next it caresses it. The world keeps telling itself that this is all some kind of ultra cunning US strategy, and Trump is trying to earn the right to unleash righteous fury. But the president of Portugal decided not to bother himself and didn't try to convince himself otherwise. And for the first time, Trump probably heard an accusation so direct, so unequivocal, and from such a high level. And everyone became extremely curious to see how Trump would now, as is his habit, something he does quite well, dodge the issue and start talking about his dissatisfaction with the smart and decent guy, Putin. Well, yes, indeed. When I talk about the pleasure that Russia gets from the nightly bombings of Kiev, we can see that not a single voice condemning yet another child killing bombing of Kiev can be heard in Russia. But as for enthusiasm, both social networks and the media were overflowing with it. And then came this astonishing frankness from the Portuguese president, and almost an entire day has now passed since he thoughtfully shared his profound thoughts about the truly odd behavior of the current US president and about the inexplicably lenient attitude Trump consistently shows toward the Russian Führer. So we see that this Pandora's box, probably the most unpleasant, the most chilling suspicion of the century, has been thrown wide open, and the topic of Trump's mysterious behavior has been legitimized at the level of a president, albeit not of the largest and most powerful, but still a highly respected and prosperous developed European country. And we know, yes, what tends to happen as a result of such statements. Even for declarations of much less significance and scandal, flocks of presidents, ministers, and analysts immediately swoop in from all sides, shouting and cawing. Because for all of them, such a sensation is a great opportunity to show off in front of the media, to impress everyone with their deep insights, and so on. But this particular topic is still being avoided by everyone as if it were the plague. A whole day has passed, and all we hear is complete silence. Well, that's always how it goes. That's always what happens when the devil of truth grins and peers in through the window. Nevertheless, everyone will probably have to speak up eventually. There are plenty of decent journalists in the world, and they will still drag an answer out of those same Macrons with iron tongs and force them to respond. And many will likely have to go through this test of evaluating the Portuguese president's remark. Even Trump himself won't be able to stay silent. No matter how tired he is of the topic of the war in Ukraine, this war has already become, and this is very important, a component, a chapter of his personal Trump biography, and possibly the most important test of his human and presidential qualities. But in general, no matter how much one might want to, even the blindest, deafest, dullest person locked away in a dungeon would find it hard not to see Russia's fascism, not to see Putin's Führer-like behavior, not to see the abuse of the innocent in Russia. It's impossible not to see what's happening. And what Trump is doing, of course, looks monstrous because it's clear that this indulgence of Russia only strengthens and inspires Russian fascism. But the truth can take many forms. The Russians even embroider the blonde face and Slavic script under that face on their red banners, you know. Trump is with us. Then, like Penelope, they unravel this embroidery and stare into space in confusion. But at the same time, let's see what we have in defense of Trump. At the same time, there are some rather drastic steps being taken by the US with carrier based missiles, continued intelligence support, completely secret military preparations, and various other details that, in general, could cast doubt on Sousa's words. Sousa, my apologies. It later turned out that the whole meeting in Alaska was actually a fiasco, and it happened because the notorious Witkoff, as usual, didn't understand a thing and played a game of broken telephone, passing on to Trump some supposed commitments from Putin that Putin never actually made. In fact, he never even mentioned them. But that's just Witkoff's style in general. And besides, we need to understand that politician and liar are basically synonyms, and there's nothing you can do about it. There's no need to be horrified by this, and no need to be ashamed of it. Really, can you name even one reason why a politician shouldn't lie? The masses love lies. Lies are much simpler and more pleasant than any truth. Sometimes, yes, sometimes the truth is used as the most straightforward material to hit people over the head with. Yes, in those cases, the truth is applied. But a person with extensive political experience is, as a rule, simply incapable of telling the truth. It's a major acting challenge. It comes out fake, vague, well, kind of like with Trump. It's like leading a crayfish behind a rock. Discreetly, right now, at this very moment, across the entire spectrum of politicians, it's clear that, well, the truth has been left as the domain of Ursula von der Leyen, Kaya Kallas, Schmerzu, and a few other figures who genuinely want to reach out to get through to the world, understanding the magnitude of the tragedy.